Right now, as you're watching this, Prince Harry is back on British soil. Not for a royal duty, not for charity, not for a quiet family visit. He's there because, according to people following the situation closely, something has erupted behind the scenes. Something serious enough that the man who spent years publicly distancing himself from the royal family may suddenly need their protection again. And at the center of all this renewed tension is Ghislaine Maxwell, speaking from a prison cell in Florida. Online discussions claim the woman who once moved through elite circles and knew the secrets of some of the most powerful men in the world may no longer see silence as useful. Reports circulating suggest names are being mentioned again, and one of them is sending shockwaves through Montecito. Meghan Markle, not as the Duchess, not as the humanitarian figure she presents today, but as someone some claim was once connected to a very different social world. A world of private yachts, invitation-only gatherings, and elite circles that, according to long-running speculation, overlapped with Jeffrey Epstein's network. The phrase being whispered online is yacht days. And if you don't know what that refers to, stay with me. This isn't framed by viewers as tabloid jealousy or random gossip. It's about resurfacing photos people say won't stay buried, timelines that don't seem to line up, and patterns that internet sleuths believe keep appearing across powerful families. Many think Harry sees what could be coming and understands what Maxwell is believed to be capable of revealing. Right now, according to online speculation, he may be calculating whether his wife's past can withstand renewed scrutiny once prison walls no longer protect reputations. But to understand why Harry might be moving cautiously, people say you have to rewind to a time before Meghan was globally known. Ghislaine Maxwell is currently serving a long federal sentence, and as many commentators point out, she has little left to protect. No empire, no allies, no future deals to negotiate. And that reality alone is what has reignited this entire conversation. And when someone in that position decides to speak, people tend to listen. Not because everything they say is proven, but because, as many online commentators point out, they no longer seem to have much incentive to protect reputations. According to discussions circulating around reported statements attributed to Ghislaine Maxwell, she has allegedly begun referencing figures from her past. Names tied to the elite social circles she and Jeffrey Epstein once moved through for years. One of the names being widely debated online is Meghan Markle. Not as the Duchess of Sussex, not as the global figure she later became, but, according to these conversations, as someone who may have crossed paths with those same elite circles during a very specific period, the mid-2000s, before the engagement, before global fame, back when she was a little-known cable actress, largely off the public radar. What's being discussed isn't traditional casting or modeling work. Some online sources describe a system of social access, invitations to the right events, appearances at the right gatherings, introductions to the right people. A world where proximity mattered more than resumes, and visibility opened doors that normally stayed closed. Private yachts, exclusive parties, guest lists that were never published, phones left behind. The phrase often mentioned in these discussions is yacht days. It's a term that's floated around for years, deliberately vague, polished on the surface, and difficult to define clearly. Online theorists describe it as a space where discretion was everything, and anonymity acted as a kind of shield. Until it didn't. Some even speculate that Meghan may have briefly moved through those environments before her life took a very different turn. And what keeps fueling these conversations is the claim that this isn't just talk. For years, certain photographs have played a strange digital game, appearing online, disappearing just as quickly, resurfacing in forums, then vanishing again. Archived here. Unavailable there. Enough, some say, to keep questions alive even when answers remain unclear. According to people who track archived images online, some of the photos being discussed show Meghan Markle in settings that don't fully match the public narrative of her pre-royal years. These aren't casual street photos or paparazzi snaps. The images circulating in forums are said to come from private gatherings, invitation-only events, and social spaces known for hosting influential figures. What's drawn attention isn't just who appears in those rooms, it's where and when. Locations that line up with elite social calendars. Openings, parties, and gatherings attended by powerful names, already documented in broader public reporting about high society networks of that era. Even when certain individuals aren't visible in every frame, viewers point out that these were environments where they were widely known to circulate. What makes these images controversial, according to online discussions, isn't their existence alone. It's how difficult they've become to find. Some users claim that photos once searchable through major archives suddenly became harder to access. Licensing links that previously worked stopped returning results. Searches that once produced images began coming up empty. To many observers, that disappearance raised more questions than answers. Because when material quietly fades instead of being addressed, people start wondering why it mattered in the first place. Why it complicates a story. Why it suggests proximity that had previously only been theoretical. And here's the thing the internet never forgets. Copies get saved, screenshots circulate, people remember what they saw. And now, with renewed discussion around old networks and old names, those images aren't just resurfacing, they're being viewed through a completely different lens. Online commentators argue these gatherings weren't just social events, they were gateways. And to understand how relatively unknown figures ended up in rooms with immense influence, many point to places like Soho House. On the surface, it's marketed as a private club for creatives, stylish, artistic, exclusive, but harmless. But longtime observers describe it as something more complex. A bridge between industries, between visibility and access, between anonymity and power. A space where introductions mattered as much as talent. In 2015, Meghan Markle attended a Soho House opening in Istanbul. She wasn't the featured guest. She wasn't globally famous yet. According to online insiders, she was present in a supporting social role, the kind designed to keep rooms full, conversations flowing, and networks quietly expanding. Someone there to fill the room, to keep the energy right, to make the event feel alive. But people online argue those openings weren't just casual parties. They were magnets for a very specific crowd. Wealthy figures who valued privacy, people close to royalty, Hollywood power players who understood that real influence doesn't happen on red carpets. It happens behind closed doors. And this is where longtime observers say questions quietly began. Even back then, some colleagues from Meghan's television work reportedly wondered how she was sustaining that lifestyle. International travel, high-end accommodations, a level of access that didn't seem to match her on-screen profile at the time. No one confronted it openly. In those circles, you don't. You notice. You file it away. Years later, when she suddenly became a duchess, those memories took on a different tone for many people watching from the outside. Because Soho House wasn't just where Meghan appeared socially. It was also a place frequented by Prince Andrew. A space where elite circles overlapped, British high society, Hollywood influence, financial power, same venues, same time frames. And that's where the timeline starts raising eyebrows online. February 2016 is officially described as the moment Harry and Meghan first met. Introduced by a mutual friend, a blind date in London, the beginning of a modern fairy tale. Romantic, serendipitous. But according to internet researchers tracking public appearances and travel patterns, that same period overlaps with discussions about something known in elite circles as a yacht week. Not a vacation in the traditional sense, but invitation-only excursions where affluent hosts gather select guests aboard luxury vessels. These trips aren't advertised. There are no public itineraries. Privacy is emphasized. Online commentators stress this is about timelines, not conclusions. They point out that participation in such events has long been part of elite social culture. Gatherings built around atmosphere, access, and discretion. What sparked renewed debate is the suggestion that these events may have occurred during the same window when Meghan's personal story is said to have taken a historic turn. Nothing here is confirmed. But once people began lining up dates, locations, and overlapping social circles, the conversation took on a life of its own. And it hasn't slowed down since. Now, some people online argue that more than one thing could be true at the same time. Maybe timelines overlapped without fully colliding. Maybe travel schedules were more fluid than the simplified version that later emerged. Or maybe the story most people know is a cleaner narrative, one that skips over environments that don't fit as neatly into a fairy tale beginning. And this is where the conversation expands beyond Meghan alone. Commentators often point out she wouldn't be the first woman to move from elite social circles into royalty. Princess Sofia of Sweden, for example, has a widely documented background in modeling and high-profile party scenes before marrying into the royal family. Norway's Crown Princess Mette Marit publicly acknowledged in 2019 that maintaining a past friendship with Jeffrey Epstein was a serious mistake. Different paths, different stories. But to some observers, similar patterns of pasts quietly absorbed once a crown entered the picture. For those watching closely, this isn't framed as conspiracy. It's pattern recognition. Once people notice how often unconventional pasts fade from public view after royal marriages, they start asking questions they hadn't asked before. And those questions didn't exist only online. Legal analysts have noted that during the civil case involving Prince Andrew, Meghan Markle was at one point reportedly discussed as a potential witness, not a defendant, not an accused party. That distinction matters. Witnesses are considered individuals who may have observed, encountered, or understood social environments relevant to a case. According to commentary surrounding the proceedings, her name was mentioned for practical reasons: residency in the United States, proximity to certain social circles during a defined period, and familiarity with individuals later central to the case. In legal terms, that's not an allegation. It's about context, timing, and location. And when timelines, social overlap, and legal discussions start intersecting, the story shifts. Not because guilt is implied, but because the background suddenly feels more complex than the version most people were first told. You were in the room, you were at the events, you moved through the same circles during the same years. Those are the kinds of questions witnesses are asked, not accusations, but context. What did you see? What did you hear? Who did you cross paths with? In the end, Meghan was never called to testify. But the fact that her name even entered legal consideration changed how many people viewed the situation. And now, with conversations growing louder and scrutiny intensifying, many believe Harry is racing to manage what comes next, before the story moves faster than he can. Because once a narrative hardens in the public mind, it stops being editable. What follows isn't about controlling headlines. It's about controlling damage before it controls him.